Welcome to virtual Japan as we are here today for round number 6.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Nice to go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, just insane.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the YesterYear Racing Cup Series here at the Old Bastards Racing League. We're at Darlington Racer with 125 laps to watch our competitors do battle. As always, I'm your host, James East with Team Goon Squad Broadcasting. Bring the action 1080p, 60 frames a second, as right now drivers are out on track here for qualifying. And it's looking to be a good one, a busy field here today. 14 drivers have already put down lap times thus far. And it looks like it's going to be Courtney Nelson, the number 48 machine, on the top spot so far here in qualifying. Victor Lane, the number 10 machine, he's out on track for his qualifying run. Running, I believe that's going to be a Danica Patrick inspired scheme for that number 10 Chevrolet here today. Nelson still on the top spot of qualifying. 17 drivers have put down time so far. Looks like Robinson and Lane out on track currently, looking to get some times on the board here. Let's see what it's going to be for Lane. He's going to bump up to 16th, a 29.80. We check in on Robinson, the number 23 machine. Also out on track, Tom Ogle, the number 11. Ogle's currently qualified third with a 29.09. Robinson moves up to 8th, and Ogle will not move up the standings here with a 34.26. Must have had a huge moment here on that second timed lap. We got Packman join us in the spectator area, cheering on all the VLS drivers, saying they're the team with speed and personality. Robinson makes his way to the start-finish line. Does he improve on 8th place qualifier? He does, edging out his teammate Tom Ogle. Robinson will move up into 3rd. Now, it looks like Larry Corey, Brian Lindsay, Sean Foltz, Alan Wanamaker not going to put down times here. Got Mark join us in the spectator area. Looks like that's going to be it for qualifying. And let's get ready to start things off with today's feature event. On pole, the 48 of Courtney Nelson. Dan Trashcan Hill starting 2nd. Josh Robinson starting 3rd. Tom Ogle starts 4th. Jerry Isaac starting 5th. TJ Rogers starts 6th. Clay Walker starting 7th. Lloyd Moore starting 8th. Chris Bates starts 9th. Wayne Hufford starting 10th. Michael Watt starting 11th. Roger Hurley starting 12th. Cycled on back. Michael Everhart starting 13th. Brian Lynch starts 14th. Dustin Martinson starting 15th. Andy Thomas starting 16th. Victor Lane starting 17th. Tom Amassey starting 18th. Chris Hazlip starting 19th. John Foltz starting 20th. William Martin starts 21st. Robert Garisco starts 22nd. Brian Lindsay starts 23rd. Alan Wanamaker starting 24th. We'll cycle it back one final time. And that's going to be Larry Corey starting 25th, rounding out the field here today. 125 laps on the board for these drivers. Darlington, a deceptively wide track with a race line that's only about 1.5 cars wide, so it's going to be very interesting as the tire fall-off starts to become a factor in today's main event. Who's going to be pushing that front right tire and introducing themselves to our good old friend outside wall? But we're going to roll them out on track here. Trying to see, it looks like Nelson might have an EOL penalty. Let's try and get a look at that. Yes. Nelson, the number 48, qualified on pole, is going to have an EOL awarded to him from last week. Sean Folsom, number 95, also going to the tail end of the line here. That's going to put Hill and Robinson up on the front row. Ogle, Isaacs, your second row. Walker and Rogers will make up the third row. Falling behind our iRacing safety car. Safety car is in. And we are green flag racing today's feature event, the YesterYear Racing Cup Series here at the OBRL. Hill's going to work that outside line. Robinson tucking in behind that number 23 machine. A lot of throwback paints being ran here tonight. Tom Ogle up into third. Very uncharacteristic. Never mind. I thought it was a throwback paint, but Ogle running a White Claw back number 11 that is very similar to the old Tide paint schemes we saw in yesteryear. Looks like Hill on the gas early on has built up a 4/10 gap over Robinson, Ogle, Isaacs. Looks like the top five has a little bit of a breakaway there. There's TJ Rogers, the number 72 machine, running sixth. Behind Rogers, you've got Bates, Moore, Watts, Hufford, Hurley. A lot of fast drivers. Now, keep an eye out. Courtney Nelson with the EOL to start tonight off. That number 48's already worked his way back up into 16th. And we got a report that Larry Corey in the number 90 machine, unfortunately, a DNS here at Darlington. Hopefully, we see him get back out on track later and join the rest of the Misfits here at the OBRL. There's Courtney Nelson, his ally back number 48 Chevy. I would imagine he's going to be pushing hard pretty early here. Dan Hill out front sets the fastest lap of 29.36. Looks like Ogle's going to set up a run here against his teammate, Josh Robinson. Ogle up into second, Robinson back to third. You can see the blue and yellow 51 of Jerry Isaacs right in tow. Isaacs running fourth out on track. Ogle looking a little bit racy here. Looked like he was going to try and make a run against Hill and that number 7 machine running up front. Oh, and it looked like Ogle had to take a different line there. Almost got into the back of Hill. Ogle swoops down. It's going to be side by side for the race lead. Right behind him, Isaacs and Robinson side by side. Ogle's going to take over that top spot here. Get the cameras synced up here. A good wide shot here at Darlington. Ogle rocking and rolling up front. Hill in second. Hard charger right now. Looks to be Brian Lindsay, the number 24 machine. Brian's up 5 spots so far in this race. Making it 6 as he works around Victor Lane's number 10. Another battle we have going out on track. Michael Watts, Wayne Hufford, the battle for 9th. Watts is up 2 spots so far. Hufford still looking for his first pass tonight. Sean Foltz, who had that EOL early on, just sets the fastest lap of the race from back in 19th, a 29.07. So Foltz feeling good and ripping it here as here comes Wayne Hufford taking a peek to the inside line of Watts. And everybody knows the longer this run continues, the tougher it's going to be to make any big passes unless somebody ahead of you has some sort of big mistake. We got Jeremy Mayo join us in the spectator area. Nelson making another move against, this time, Roger Hurley. Now, Nelson still showing down 10 spots from where he started. Nelson started on pole and then had that EOL awarded to him, so he's got an uphill battle, but he's making it happen here. He started off back around 23rd, 24th, has fought his way all the way up to 11th, and right now he's about 6/10 off the back of Wayne Hufford. You can see Hufford step out of line a little bit there. Looked like he was going to take a look to the inside line of Watts. Watts has a big run right onto the back bumper of Moore's 26 machine. Hufford hunting and pecking for an opening to put the nose of the number 75 machine. Just can't quite find it. Darlington, a very difficult track to try and make some moves at. As Ogle still runs up front, about a 6/10 up over a hill. Isaacs in third, with Robinson and Walker rounding out the top 5. Hufford still trying that middle groove, though, against Watts. So it seemed like Hufford had to back out of it. And now that has allowed Courtney Nelson, Roger Hurley, Brian Lynch, and Titanium Everhart to close the gap up a little bit to our 10th place driver of Hufford. Up front, Ogle has a pretty substantial gap, 8/10 up over Hill. Hill still has Isaacs right in the toe. Let's see if we can get a camera angle pointed. There we go. There's Hill, the MXPX back number 7. Isaacs, the blue and yellow numbered at 51. Both drivers in Chevys. And Josh Robinson, the number 23 Ford Mustang, staying here in hot pursuit as well. As Ogle just clicking off laps and has some great momentum here, 3/4 of a second up. Now, unfortunately, we don't know what the fuel numbers are going to be for these drivers here tonight. We were not able to get any drivers with that sweet, sweet inside scoop of just how long they can go for. I would imagine the fuel window is going to open up around lap 35, close around lap 45 from what I've seen in the past, but we'll keep an eye on that and see if it comes to fruition. Handing back to Chris Bates in 7th. He's got more. Watts, Hufford, Nelson, all single file here. You still have drivers clicking off fast their personal fastest laps of the race as well. Isaacs in third just set his fastest at 29.44. And drivers hitting speeds in excess of 180 miles an hour here working that draft. Bates, the green and yellow number 81, up 2 spots from where he started. You can see Walker and Rogers 5th and 6th. About a half second ahead of Bates here. They're linked up nose to tail. And things are starting to tighten up a little bit here in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place spot. About a half second separating those drivers, hanging back by over a second off Tom Ogle. Nelson trying to work that inside line against Hufford. It's going to be tough as Michael Watson are right there as well. Looks like Nelson's going to get that pass made, moving back up into 10th. But Nelson slowly and methodically getting through the field here to try and regain that top position. He's going to have a long night ahead of him, though, if he wants to go from first to last all the way back up to first again. And speaking of podium finishers, here is Hill, Isaacs, and Robinson. Still linked up here, but they have lost. They're now about 1.3 seconds back from Ogle, your race leader. Ogle is enjoying the clean air off that number 11 machine and is going to be able to focus on tire saving a little bit more than those drivers right behind him are. Another battle we have out on track. Victor Lane grabbing a spot back from Brian Lindsay. Here comes Dustin Martinson, the number 19 machine as well, trying to get a piece of the action. Martinson down to 4 spots from where he originally started tonight. And Nelson still keeping the pressure up on Michael Watts. Watts was able to defend off Hufford for about 5 or 10 laps, so now it's going to be Nelson's turn to try and break through. It's the 84 of Watts versus the 48 of Nelson. Side by side we go here. It's Bates, Nelson. Watson, Hufford also in the fray here. Nelson trying to work that inside line against the 81 of Bates. He has made his way around Watts. Interesting to see how Nelson is going to be able to keep making those passes while keeping some tires underneath him here tonight. Bates trying to hold on to that 8th place spot. As behind Nelson, you still have Watson, Hufford right there with him a little bit, hanging back, maybe a little bit safer. Roger Hurley, the 77 Toyota. Nelson tries to get a run off the bottom. Nothing with it there, though, as Bates runs that mid to high groove, trying to carry as much momentum as he can. And it seems like for the drivers up front, they've been able to defend fairly well. But somehow, Nelson's been able to keep making it happen as he pulls up alongside Bates. Bates has problems. I saw a bit of a lock. I'm not sure if that was a lockup or what the reason for the smoke was, but Bates is going to lose the spot. Nelson's going to continue the charge. See if I can get a replay queued up of that one. Didn't look like any car-to-car contact here. You're watching Bates on the left side of your screen. Nelson on the right. Nelson gets on the back quarter panel. Pulls up. There might have been a little bit of bumping and grinding there. And that puts Bates up into the wall, but there's not going to be a crash report of that one, so I don't think Nelson's going to have to serve a self-serve penalty. But in that unofficial broadcaster's review, definitely some contact to be spoken for. This is Isaacs versus Robinson, the battle for third. Robinson on that inside line, Isaacs up high. Robinson's going to take over that final podium spot nice and easy. And you can see Dan Hill ahead there by about 1/4 second up front. Tom Ogle currently holds a 1.5 seconds over Dan Hill. But I think I saw some lap traffic up ahead for Mr. Tom Ogle, your race leader. That may be Chris Hazlett, the number 91 Toyota. Going to be fighting to stay on the lead lap here. Tires definitely starting to fall off for some of these drivers. We're seeing a lot of the field over a second off their fastest lap of the race as they try and manage the tires underneath them, especially that front right does not like to be overdriven here at Darlington. Hazlett hopping down the left side of the track. Looked like he's going to try and facilitate an easy pass for Ogle. You saw Ogle, though, briefly tucking in behind the toe of that number 91, trying to get a little bit more pace out of that number 11. Now, compared to the rest of the field, Ogle's not going to be able to save any fuel, any tires here, at least compared to the guys behind him. Maybe more so, he'll be able to save tires. He's got the clean air and picking his own line, but since that number 11 machine's pushing the air off the nose, there will be very little fuel saving to come from a little bit of help from drafting out on the circuit, out on the track. So Ogle just keeps clicking them off and making it look easy. William Martin grabs a spot from Dustin Martinson right ahead of these two as Garisco and Lane having a battle for 18th as the field bunching up a little bit here from 18th through about 22nd place. Garisco trying to find an opening there, and his number 28 machine can't quite find it against Lane. Also looks like Watson Hufford getting a little bit closer again. Watts way up against the wall there. Hufford trying to hold that car down a little bit tighter. Now Watts, if he keeps running high, will be able to save a little bit more tire, but that's going to leave very, very little room for any sort of mistakes. And as the cars start to tighten up, they tend to push towards that front right up towards the wall. And I have a prediction, if this run keeps going green, we're going to see drivers who are maybe fighting the tires a little bit worse start tagging that wall a little bit more often here. On screen, you've got Rogers, Moore, Nelson, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Linked up nose to tail as Nelson continues that charge up towards the front. Or that number 26 machine feeling the pressure. He's still up one spot from where he originally started. Nelson taking a peek to the inside line of Moore. Doesn't quite have the run down the start-finish line. Jeremy Mayo, the spectator area, letting us know we're going to be figuring out who's on a 1 or 2 stop strategy. He's thinking for the drivers that are on a 2 stop strategy, we're going to see the next 5 to 10 laps pit road getting a little bit busy. Now that means if we do have drivers on that 1-stop strategy, we're not going to see them pit to around lap 62, 63 here. That is going to be an enormously long time to go fighting the tires. I mean, Tom Ogle, your race leader, who has Hill starting to close the gap back up. Last time by a 30.56, 1.4 seconds off his fastest lap of the race. And I don't think that was attributed to any lap traffic. I think that's just going to be the tire management. There's Tom Massey, the number 62. Chevy is about to go a lap down as Ogle and Hill are linked up here, first and second. Massey hopping out of the way as quickly as he can. That number 62 helping the race leaders by nice and tidy. We got James Waldo join us in the spectator area. Always great seeing Waldo. Right now, if you're just tuning in, Ogle has been pretty dominant so far the opening 40 laps. But Dan Hill, the last 2 or 3, I think has been maybe managing the tires a little bit better, has rapidly closed the distance to your race leader. Oh, and Ogle might have got a little bit loose off there. That's going to give Hill the race lead. So Hill is going to take over from Ogle as Ogle saves it out of turn 2. Now let's see what are the top 3 drivers, all teammates, going to do as far as strategy goes here this evening. If we pan a little bit further back, Rogers now has company from the ever-present Courtney Nelson. Nelson's worked his way back up to 7th. If you're just joining us, Nelson qualified on pole, had an EOL, went to the very back and has fought his way back up to 6th, but 7th, excuse me, as he just had a huge moment there. But doesn't seem to be slowing him down. I don't think Nelson ever lifted off that one. Nelson all over the back of TJ Rogers. A little bit of bumping and grinding going on here. The battle for 5th. Nelson takes a peek to the inside line through 1 and 2. Can he slide up in front of Rogers? Looks like Nelson gets it nice and clear here. Keep an eye out. Here comes Lloyd Moore, the number 26. He wants to follow suit. That puts Nelson back up into the top 5. No, that's going to be 6 for Nelson, as he is still 3.4 seconds back from Clay Walker. But we will keep an eye on Courtney Nelson to see how that run continues. Behind them, there's Michael Watts and Chris Bates. But we've got a caution out on track. And I think it might be Michael Titanium Everhart, who is parked in a precarious position. And that will bring out the first caution of the evening. What happens here? Gets a little bit of help from Dustin Martinson, the number 19. Everhart with a hard hit at the back of that number 17 machine on the inside wall. So that's going to put just about everybody down pit road. As Hill throws on the binders behind that iRacing safety car. So it looks like every single person coming down pit road. Let's see if Amasi, Everhart, and Hazlip stay out to get back on the lead lap here. And is there going to be any big changes out of pit road? Hill's going to hold on to the race lead. Isaac's a good stop. Up into second. Ogle, a terrible pit stop. Must have had damage. In and out of his stall, 26.32 seconds. Ogle's going to fall all the way back to 13th here. Tom Massey showing us staying out, the number 62. Lloyd Moore also fixing damages on that pit stop, the number 26, in his stall for 27 seconds. William Martin, the 294. Dustin Martinson, the number 19. Both drivers, 27-second pit stops. So that's going to put Courtney Nelson starting 4th here. So with that long pit stop, I think Ogle and the other drivers that were in their stall for 20 seconds had some sort of repairs to get correct on those machines. I don't think it was a pit road violation, or they would have been in their stalls or on pit road for much longer, I think. Ogle's going to have a bit of an uphill battle for this one, but we've seen drivers like Courtney Nelson where an uphill battle has not been too big of an issue here tonight. So we've got them gridded up, double file here. Hill and Isaacs, your front row. Robinson, Nelson, your second row. Walker and Rogers will make up the third row. And we are green flag racing once more. The Yesteryear Racing Cup Series here at the OBRL. Hill and Isaac still staying side by side as we are dancing around here a little bit. Nelson and Robinson side by side. Isaac seems to be content following along Hill. There's Robinson tucking in behind Nelson just like that. Nelson back into podium contention. But now you've got a driver stacked back together with fresh tires underneath them. The car's going to be a lot more loose, a lot more free. Have to be careful to kind of get used to things again before you really start to hammer the throttle. We got Robbie DeCast joining us in the spectator area. Always great to see DeCastris. As there goes Courtney Nelson up the inside line of Jerry Isaacs. Nelson, I can't say enough, started on pole here tonight, had the EOL penalty, went to the back of the field the first lap, and after one caution has fought his way all the way up to second place. Let's see, can Nelson try and track down Dan Hill? A little bit further back, you've got Hurley, Thomas, Lindsay, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Ogle has fought his way back up to 9th, the number 11 White Claw back machine. So So good racing everywhere we look here tonight. Hill still out front, Nelson in hot pursuit. Michael Watts, Chris Bates, Tom Ogle linked up here 7th, 8th, and 9th. There's Bates, the number 81 machine, chased by Ogle. Let's see if we can get that replay of Brian Lindsay going for a little bit of an exciting moment there. There's Brian Lindsay, and it looked like Lloyd Moore, I think, also in that one. Thankfully able to keep it clear. Let's see if I can get that pulled up once more here. There's Lindsay, a pretty hard hit against the wall, but keeps it pointing the right direction. There's Tom Ogle working his way up into 7th. I'm losing the crowd up here in the broadcast booth. I'm getting all sorts of grief from the race fans. Soon the hot dogs will be thrown up here at the announcer's PA, implying that I missed something. So a tip of the hat to Brian Lindsay, as well as our feverish fans out here at Darlington. Wouldn't want to call any other races than for the good old group of the OBRL. Robinson still holding on to 4th, Clay Walker in 2nd. And I'm seeing a lot more tight racing here after this restart. It seems like drivers in a bit of a hurry to make something happen here. Hill still out front, 6/10 up over Nelson. Robinson and Walker linked up 4th and 5th. You can see Ogle, the number 11 machine, is sitting in 6th after Ogle had to get some repairs done on that number 11 Ford on that last pit cycle under caution. You can also see Rogers, Watts, Bates, Hurley, Thomas, Moore, Lynch all grouping up here. There's Rogers, the number 72. It's a spattering of Fords here, linked up 4th through 8th place, all piloting the Mustangs, as Chevrolet currently owns the top 3 with Hill, Nelson, and I6. 3 Toyotas, the fastest Toyotas out on track, 9th, 10th, and 11th, Bates, Hurley, and Thomas. Here comes Tom Ogle looking at the inside line against Walker, has to back out of it. I'm trying to think, was that Brian Lynch? I wonder. No, that was maybe Lloyd Moore might have had a bit of a moment. Every time you see a driver very aggressively turning towards the inside of the racetrack, especially out of turn 2, that is an extremely good indicator that that driver just got very loose and was doing everything they can to hold on to it. Moore making a pass happen against Andy Thomas. He's going to move up into 11th. As what do we have here up front? Courtney Nelson is off the back of Dan Hill, that number 7 machine. This is going to be interesting to see if Nelson can try and track down Dan Hill. As they run nose to tail first and second. They built up a 3.5 second gap over Jerry Isaacs. And look at the drivers behind Isaacs. You've got Robinson, Ogle, Walker, Rogers, Watts, Bates, Hurley. All linked up here, third through about 10th position. Now we are officially past the halfway mark of today's main event. Tom Massey is going to come down pit road, the number 62. And Nelson has a big run here. Looks to the inside line of Dan Hill. He wants back over that top spot. He qualified in pole. And Nelson, despite serving the EOL penalty, is back up front here at Darlington. So this is the type of racing we were coming to expect from these drivers. And I'm curious to see if we can get a green flag pit stop here tonight. How that's going to play into being a factor here. So Ogle following his teammate Robinson up into third. Isaac's now back to fifth. I'm curious to see, can Clay Walker capitalize? Walker, the number 2 machine, is up one spot so far. Now, not counting Nelson, who had to serve that EOL penalty. And it looks like it's going to be Robert Garisco, the number 28, who's been able to grab 7 positions so far here tonight. Oh, Walker hard up against the wall there. That's going to slow the run down and give Rogers an opportunity to get back around. Nelson still up front with Hill about 1/4 of a second off the back of him here. We're watching where a large majority of the drivers seem to be hanging out. It's 5th through about 11th place. Walker trying to get a run built up against Jerry Isaacs there, the number 51, as Rogers follows in pursuit. You can also see Michael Watts, Chris Bates, Roger Hurley, and Lloyd Moore. Things are definitely starting to bunch up here a little bit. We've got just slightly over 50 laps here in this race. Now I'm wondering, I think everybody's going to have to pit once more. So when are we going to see drivers start to file down pit road? Oh, I need to pin back up. There's Isaacs and Walker side by side. Walker down low, Isaacs up against the wall. Oh, they touch. Where did Walker go? Pulls over. And Clay Walker is going to park it here. Let's see what happened there. They were side by side. A little bit of contact. But no incident there before Walker decided to pack it up for the night. So bummer to see for Clay Walker, who was running very well. Isaacs is going to hold on to that fifth place position. As ahead of him, the two teammates, Robinson and Ogle, going to leapfrog here a little bit. Ogle takes over that third place spot after the very rough pit stall that put him down a fistful of positions. Now, Waldo asking when the fuel window is going to be. I'd have to defer to somebody like Jeremy Mayo. He's got a lot more seat time in these cars than I do. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the inside scoop from the drivers coming into today's show. So we still have the battle for the lead underway. Hill trying to track down Nelson. Nelson up front, Hill tracking within 0.2 of a second. Now the tire wear at the end of 47 laps, 45 laps I think is when we saw the first caution. We were seeing drivers a little bit over a second off their fastest laps of the race. Right now, as Nelson and Hill update the lap timers, I see Nelson a 30.03, Hill about the same, a 29.94. They're about 6 to 7 tenths off their fastest laps of the race. We were hearing from others that the fuel window could be up to 60 laps for these next-gen Cup cars. And Hill has a big run. Is he going to do anything against Courtney Nelson? Doesn't look like it this time by. And there goes Dan Hill taking back over the race lead here at Darlington. Now, I think it's going to be interesting to see. We did not have the opportunity during the opening stint to see just how bad the tires would be at the end of a fuel run. Hill rocking and rolling, clicked off a 30 flat, 0.3 of a faster lap time than Mr. Nelson in second. Got Mark Fish joining us, hanging out. Giving some love to Dan Hill. We pan a little bit further back. Jerry Isaacs has TJ Rogers in hot pursuit. You can also see Watson Bates. But for a little while now, things have been pretty slow and steady. Well, not slow and steady, but steady across the course. Michael Watts can be one of the first drivers down pit road, and that's a little bit of a sketchy entry there for Watts. What on earth happened? Was that a crash saved, or... Yeah, I think that was a planned pit stop. But not the best pit entry for Mr. Michael Watts, who's going to be our first driver down pit road. So let's see. It looks like Watt's the only driver who has come down pit road in this cycle. Everybody else staying out for another lap or so. We pan back into Dan Hill. Courtney Nelson still running 4/10 off the back here. I think once we start to see some of these race leaders come down pit road, just about everybody's going to follow suit. Watts right now the only driver looking for the undercut. Now both Hill and Nelson, first and second, looking for their first win of the season. We've had 12 races so far. And only 4 different winners this season. Robinson, Ogle, Isaacs, and Rice. The 4 drivers who have picked up wins thus far the 2024 YesterYear Racing Cup Series. Wayne Hufford, the number 75, he's down pit road. Hard on the brakes. Isaacs and Robinson going side by side. Isaacs taking over the 4th place position. So I think we're about to start seeing some more and more drivers coming down pit road here. Dan Hill, your race leader. Something has happened to Courtney Nelson. Nelson's going to come down pit road. There we go. I saw him losing fistfuls of time to Dan Hill. Tom Ogle in 3rd, also down pit road. Isaacs and Robinson going to stay out. There's Dan Hill down pit road. So this should be the final planned stops of the evening. Jerry Isaacs is going to stay out a little bit. They've got a few drivers, I think they're going to go for the overcut here, hoping that there's a late race caution to put a lot of fast guys down a lap. But that's going to be a big gamble with only 1 caution on the board so far this evening. So it looks like currently your top 13 drivers staying out have yet to come down since lap 45. Andy Thomas, Robert Garisco, they're going to come down pit road. Isaacs out front has Robinson and Rogers 2nd and 3rd in tow behind. And they're going to continue the run here. So this is going to be interesting. A large portion of the field is going to stretch this run out a little while longer. On Wanamaker's down pit roads, that's going to leave the top 9 drivers who have yet to pit here. And a good tip of the hat there from Jeremy Mayo. Dan Hill was a little bit faster in his pit stall, came out about 1.4 seconds up over Courtney Nelson. Hill in and out of a stall 14.83 seconds. Nelson 15.23. Your top 3 still linked up. Looks like Lloyd Moore grabs a spot against Chris Bates. He's going to move that 26 machine up into 4th. Let's see, this is going to be interesting. Still 9 drivers have yet to pit here. They're going to be really hoping for a caution. A little bit less than 30 laps left to go. Roger Hurley, the number 77 Toyota, he's down pit road for what should be the final time, barring any big incidents out on track. Lloyd Moore, Chris Bates still linked up here, 4th and 5th. But it looks like TJ Rogers starting to close the gap to Mr. Josh Robinson in 2nd as well. But there's also going to be a little bit of lap traffic for drivers to contend with. Drivers unlapping themselves as I think Dan Hill's working his way up here. There's Isaacs. That is Hill on screen behind him. The number 7 machine putting those fresh tires to use. And watch how quick Hill is going to be able to make that happen there against Jerry Isaacs, getting himself back in the lead lap. Now Hill doesn't have to push too hard here. And that has shaken off TJ Rogers a little bit, sitting in 3rd, as he's fallen about 2 seconds back from Josh Robinson. Still waiting for our 8 drivers to come down pit road, as the 9 drivers on the lead lap, all but Dan Hill, who has unlapped himself, has yet to come down here. And we've got Jeremy Mayo saying, you know, surely we can't see somebody make it all the way here. I don't think so, as that would be about 80 laps to the dot on a tank of fuel. And even in the case of Robinson, who's been able to do a little bit of fuel saving here tonight, I think that's going to be a little bit too much of an ask. We're waiting to see. 25 laps left to go. Isaacs continues the charge up front. That number 51 machine. Robinson sitting in 2nd. TJ Rogers sitting in 3rd. Courtney Nelson's got himself back in the lead lap, that number 48 machine. So that puts 10 drivers on the lead lap, 8 of which we are fairly confident do not have the fuel to make it till the end here. I mean, Isaacs and Robinson, 1st and 2nd, they're on some sort of strategy. We just can't quite figure out what it is up here in the booth. Oh, who was that? That was Brian Lindsay, another big save, the number 24. Isaac's forced tense up over Robinson, but Robinson seems to be closing in a little bit every lap on corner entry. Here's Brian Lindsay trying to unlap himself. The number 24 machine get a lap back as Lindsay's down a couple laps right now. And you also see Tom Ogle, the number 11 machine. Oh, everybody's got to be careful here. Lindsay's got those fresher tires underneath them. He dives it in deep against Robinson. There's Ogle, the number 11 machine. He's not going to do anything too risky here that might jeopardize one of the team cars. At least I would hope not. Ogle picks a safe place to pass Robinson. Now here comes Watts. This is giving a lot of ground to Jerry Isaacs up front. Hasn't had that traffic have to make their way around quite yet. And here's a tight battle. Brian Lynch, Sean Foltz, William Martin. Martin move up into 6th against Foltz. All three drivers we're thinking still going to have to pit here. Martin's going to try and make it a 2-for-1. Looking at the inside line of Brian Lynch. Makes it happen. So that's going to put Martin up 16 positions so far here tonight. I heard a little bit of wall scraping. I'm not sure if that was Foltz or who that might have been, as Dan Hill is rapidly closing his way up towards the front, even if everybody else on track has enough fuel to make it till the end. Hill is closing fast. Last time by, Hill at 29.46, 1.3 seconds faster than anybody else ahead of him here. As Hill gets around Martin, move that number 7 machine up into 5th. So Isaacs a second up over Robinson, 18 laps left to go. And a whole lot of traffic around that number 51 machine. There's Victor Lane trying to unlap himself and get a lap back as Lane is down a fistful of laps here. Oh, Isaac tags the outside wall right as Lane gets the lap back. And we're going to go 3 wide here. Brian Lindsay working the inside lane. Lane was squeezed in the middle. Isaac's up high. Thankfully, everybody gets through that one nice and clean. $15 laps left to go. Right now, Isaacs is about 14 seconds up from Dan Hill. Hill is closing fast, gaining over a second per lap as he makes a very quick pass against Chris Bates, the number 81, putting Hill up into 4th. I didn't expect to see the top 3 try and make it a one-stop race, but it seems like it's going to maybe be in the cards. But Hill ripping that number 7 machine. The question is, are his tires going to start to fall off before he can whittle away Isaacs, your race leader? He still needs to gain a little bit, a smidgen less than a second a lap here. And up front, looks like Isaac's going to have some pressure from Robinson. What's going to happen here? How is the lap traffic? There's going to be a caution. Who brought this one out? I see the smoke there towards the back. Trying to see, was Nelson or Bates maybe tied up in that one? I saw Bates is going to take a tow back to pit road. What just happened here? This is going to throw a wrench. There's Nelson and Bates side by side. Oh, big contact. Nelson gets slammed to the wall. And Bates is going to take a tow. Oh, man, the front right completely locked up. And oh, my goodness, that's uncharacteristic. Nelson is fuming here. Surely Nelson's going to get parked for that one. Let's take another look. I mean, it's just a little bit of a racing incident. The two drivers get together. And then look at this. Nelson is going to voice his displeasure here. Ramming into the back of Chris Bates. Oh, race control is going to have a word about that one, I think. So we're going to have a pretty wild evening here. Those on the one-stop strategy who thought Hill might be closing, might have been given a little bit of reprieve here. What a night here at Darlington. In the words of Tom Ogle, I have a feeling there will be some penalties following tonight's race. So what's this gonna be? As it looks like everybody in the top 9 on the same tire strategy. We've got 13 drivers on the lead lap. I think it's gonna be 8 to go for this restart. It is about to be a short run shootout here at Darlington. Here we go for what could be the final time, the YesterYear Racing Cup Series. Isaac's on the throttle early on, but he's chased by Josh Robinson up on the high side. Here comes Dan Hill, the number 7 machine, way down low, looking for some redemption. Oh, and we're sliding back there. Who was that? That was Michael Watts, I think, with an uncharacteristic off-track excursion. Wayne Hufford's coming down pit road, must have had some sort of incident. Isaac's out front, Hill second, Robinson in third. Isaac's looking for his second win of the season, Hill looking for his first. Robinson looking for his 8th, as it's going to be Hill goes for a little bit of a ride here. Here comes Robinson. Keeping the power down as we get ready to click it over. 5 laps left to go. Five laps left to go. Hill seeming like he can hold on to second place here. But you can tell by the big saves we've already had in the last 2 laps, these drivers are absolutely on the ragged edge here tonight. Isaac's looking good here, that 51 machine. He's got some short run pace beneath him. 4 laps left to go. Isaac's ahead by about 0.4 of a second. Hill in second, but Josh Robinson in third. Just set the fastest lap of the race, a 28.8. Robinson hungry to try and get up there and battle for the race lead here. But Isaacs and Hill are not going to make it easy. These top 3 have pulled about 0.6 over Ogle, the number 11 machine, who sits in 4th. Hill answers with the fastest lap of the race, a 28.78. These drivers are absolutely ripping here tonight. Isaacs wants to keep that run going, but here comes Dan Hill closing the gap within 0.2 of a second. I think we still have time for a battle for the lead here, but any mistake from Hill as he tries to pressure Isaacs, I think will result in Robinson making a move here. Hill's going to set up for the inside line through 1 and 2. Oh, there's contact between the 2. Isaacs gets loose from it. Hill takes over the race lead. Now it's going to be Robinson and we're going to work together. A little bit of smoke kicks off as I think that was Robinson dragging the wall. This isn't even a short track and we're bumping and grinding. Moore gets to the side of Robinson. We're beating and banging the doors off here. Hill ahead by a country mile. He's got about a second up over the rest of the field. White flag is out. Right now, it's Hill, your race leader. Isaac second. Ogle has worked his way into podium contention. Down the backstretch for the final time here this evening. Checkered flag comes out. And at the line, it's going to be Dan Hill picking up his first win of the season. Jerry Isaacs gets second. And Tom Ogle will round out the top 3. So we're going to pull them down the start-finish line for our podium photos and get these top 3 drivers up here to victory lane. What a wild night. Hill in that top spot. With Isaacs joining him in second. What a wild finish here at Darlington. And Dan Hill's going to burn it down here. We're going to try and get these drivers up here to victory lane. We've got Isaacs. We're waiting on Ogle and Hill. Trying to get these drivers up here to victory lane so we can get the party started. Not sure where our other drivers are. Start making things happen here in the booth, I think. We're going to start things off with longtime friend Mr. Tom Ogle join us in the third place spot. Ogle, even for OBRL, this was quite an interesting one here tonight.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, you cut out there a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't make it on fuel at the end, so I had to do the stop, and then I was kind of working my way back up. I honestly had a pretty drama-free race.
I'm glad
but
somebody
it seemed
did.
like there was a ton of stuff going on, for sure.
Yeah, just a relaxing Mother's Day for everybody. Now, Ogle, we weren't able to get any word from the racers tonight, but how long could you guys stretch the fuel out on these cars tonight?
I think Josh was going to try and do 75 there at the end. Him and Jerry were going to make it, I think, on fuel. Josh said he was going to be close. I could not even come close, but I'm not sure how many other guys could have possibly made it there.
So the lap 115 caution and subsequent pit stop, was that a little bit of a relief for you then?
It was for me. It wasn't for those guys that were trying to make it on fuel. And also, it might not have been for Dan because he was going to be close to catching those guys, even though he stopped and got tired.
Well, it seemed like a lot of fun, a lot of excitement out on track.
It was definitely a lot of fun.
A very unique paint scheme that you're running here tonight as well, so always appreciate it. And
my John Hastings throwback. John Hastings throwback. He's not here, but I'm thinking about him.
Oh, the tip of the hat to Hastings then. Ogle,
he's a huge White Claw guy.
He is. I've heard that. We've read his driver bio.
Definitely. He loved it.
So, Tom, before I let you go and unwind from this one, pop open a White Claw. Who do you want to give a shout to that helps put you up here in the top three?
I want to thank my teammates, Josh and Dan and Brian, and but also all the guys, Victor, for keeping the league together and keeping it going, and all the sponsors, YesterYear Racing, and thank you for broadcasting it.
Couldn't do without you guys. Tom, always a pleasure, buddy, and good to have you up
James.
here.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Well, sir.
Yep.
That was Mr. Tom Ogle in third. Up next, we've got Jerry Isaacs, the number 51 machine. Jerry, a great race, able to keep the 51 relatively clean and still be here at the end of it.
Yeah, I think I had some stripes along the side, the Darlington stripes on the side, but actually, yeah, it wasn't in too bad a shape.
Well, we're just looking at the left side of the car right now, so from our perspective in the booth, it looks flawless.
Perfect.
So, Jerry, it was a lot of different strategies at play. It looked like you guys were going to try and make it till the end on fuel before we had that late race caution. Was that caution a bit of a reprieve for you, or were you hoping it was going to go green all the way?
I was hoping it was going to go green. It was going to be close. I don't know that I could have made a lap around past the start finish, but I think I would have made it. Dan was coming fast. I don't know. I don't know if he would have got me anyways. So yeah, I was hoping it would stay green. I thought it would be kind of cool to see how it finished.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a long run race, and then a short track race broke out by accident there at the end of the last few laps. So how are you able to avoid carnage when it seemed like people were using those bumpers a little bit more in the final laps?
Well, I had the advantage of being out front, so I had some clean air. That helped until I made a mistake and Dan got by me. But mainly just try to get a good start, stay out front, and use some clean air to try and stay there.
Well, Jerry, glad it worked out well for you. A great finish here tonight in the 51. And before I let you go and unwind from this one, who do you want to give a shout to that helps put you up into second?
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys at Team Goon Squad for the broadcast, and Old Bastard Racing League for putting on the league. YesterYear Racing, go to YesterYearRacing.com. Check them out. Our sponsor wouldn't be able to race without them. And, of course, my Mad Spartan Sim Racing team. Cody Richardson, shout out to him for coaching me through this. And last of all, hi, Mom.
Well, Jerry, always a pleasure, buddy. Good to have you back up here, and we hope to have you in 2 weeks following our off week.
Absolutely, man. Good talking to you. Always a pleasure.
You as well, sir. That was Mr. Jerry Isaacs joining us up in second place. But up next, the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Trashcan Hill. The MXPX back number 7 machine on the top spot for the first time this season.
Oh, man, it's great to get a win in. But, man, that was a rough race.
Yeah, that was interesting. It's probably how we're going to describe it from our perspective in the broadcast booth. We had big crashes, we had hurt feelings, we had strategies thrown out the window. A very odd Sunday night here for the OBRL.
Yeah, it was really weird. I mean, when that first caution came out, it really became a thing of, okay, well, who's going to pit and who's not? And I knew there was no way. I was shifting, so I was using a lot more gas than everybody else, and so I knew I was going to pit, so I just went as hard as I could to get as big of a lead as I could to come in and hopefully then be able to catch back up. And I don't know that I would have ran him down. It would have been close, but it was crazy. And then that next caution came out, and I was just like, oh, here we go again.
Yep, a short track throwdown to cap the night off. And yeah, I was watching the lap times pretty closely. I mean, you were, in theory, it looked like for me, you were going to catch them with 1 or 2 to go. But I mean, there's so many variables and so much luck that comes into play. So with that strategy being kind of tossed out and reset for a short run shootout, were you happy with that? Or would you have rather seen it green and try and track them down on your own accord?
I would have rather it stay green and then just try, get beat either by, fuel strategy or not. Because there's just too many variables that can happen. And when you get into that real short, short stint there, because I mean, like you saw me and Jerry on that, second to last lap, we got together. I didn't leave him much room, but it is what it is. You were going for the race at the end there, and and luckily he didn't wreck it, and everybody got through there safe. But it could have very easily have turned bad, and we could have wrecked the entire field.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys put on a great display of racecraft. It was a ton of fun for us up here in the booth. Hopefully it was half as fun for you guys in the top 3. And Dan, you've got the privilege, the pleasure, the first time for you this season, the final send-offs of the night. Who do you want to give a shout to that helped make it happen?
Well, I got to give a shout out first to my wife for putting up with me racing as much as I do. And a shout out to my sponsor, MXPX. The album that's on this car is outstanding. If you get a chance, check it out. And shout out to my teammates, Josh, Tom, Brian, John, Hinchcliffe, all the guys at Team Miata that have helped me get where I am today. And yeah, that's about it. I appreciate it. And thanks to you for your great broadcasts.
Couldn't do it without you guys. Dan, always a pleasure, bud, and congratulations on that first win.
Thank you, bud.
That was Dan Hill capping the night off in that top spot, the MXPX Team Miata number 7 Chevrolet. He was accompanied by Jerry Isaacs in second and Mr. Tom Ogle rounding out the top 3. On behalf of the Old Bastards Racing.com, Victory Lane Sports, YesterYear Racing, and Butt Kicker, my name has been James East with Team Goon Squad Broadcasting. Thank you all spending your Sunday night and Mother's Day with us, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great night, everybody.